Marathon is a brutal extraction shooter where the loop sounds simple enough. You drop into the map, you grab loot, you complete your contracts for factions, and you escape alive. Bungie clearly designed the game around a 3-player squad with runner shells, which are player classes that synergize together to complete objectives and take on other teams. I originally thought most of my time would be spent in trios. Play when my crew is online and play some single-player game when they're not. But after about 35 hours, I kept finding myself going back to solo for one more run. And honestly, it might be one of the most intense ways to play this game. Marathon is built to let you queue up as trios against other trios. This is the way Bungie originally envisioned Marathon, to the point where solo queue wasn't even an option in the original builds and alphas they held last year. What a mistake that would have been. You can also queue in as a duo with closed squads, but you'll still be up against trios. Just recently they announced they will be testing out duos mode in perimeter only. It seems to be like a beta test, and I can't wait for that to be implemented game-wide. Finally, solo players are placed in solo lobbies, so it's every runner for themselves. You can always queue with random teammates in trios, but you never know what you're going to get. I'm putting my top gear on the line, only to end up with 2 teammates running free sponsored loadouts. It's disastrous. Also, when I have to run a free loadout, I feel bad loading in groups. I don't want to hold them back. Solo is such a different vibe. Tau Ceti 4 is still just as dangerous, and the UESC bots are still just as deadly. There's no adjustments or tweaks to the mechanics or the challenge of the game because you play solo, and that's part of its allure. Solo can feel like survival horror. Many times I found myself hiding in a washroom or behind a cubicle waiting for a UESC bot to finish a patrol. Unless you load in, geared to the teeth, your best bet is to move quietly, avoid drawing attention, and pick enemies off one by one. The knife is your best friend here. The UESC, as I mentioned, are already deadly in trios, so you're avoiding confrontation a lot of the time. And solo 1v1 encounters with other runners are intense as hell. In my experience, it's shoot on sight, and shootouts are mainly decided who gets the jump on who, and whose abilities are on cooldown. Unless, of course, you open fire and it's a purple shield and you're on a free loadout, then good luck. I've found that being the hunter is often the best strategy. Gunfights between UESC enemies can reveal other players' locations. It's a perfect moment to catch someone off guard, making the point of interest safer for you. So what do I find really works for me in solo? Well, the stealth gameplay shines here. It keeps you alive longer. The tension is there, you're crouching by enemies, you're sneaking to make less noise. Listening for other players is a huge part of the game. You have to be more selective in encounters to be sure you have the gear to defend yourself, and that's also very satisfying. Any little mistake can cost you and your loadout. I couldn't tell you the number of times I've lost everything because my guard was down. The pacing is slower, definitely. For me, that's also satisfying. Your wins and your losses are all on you, and how you approach the objective, how you prepared for the objective before loading in, whether that's a faction quest or just a farming run. And I never really died in a way where it felt unfair. I could always look back to my decisions and see where I made a fatal mistake. You learn something with each conflict. You learn how to counter one runner to the next, either with abilities, what guns are best in each scenario. The clear focus on the objective is a standout for me. The slow burn of completing quests, unlocking and reading the codex. As a fan of the lore and the world building, it's nice to be able to immerse myself in the game and engage with the world without bullshit chatter in my ear from my squad mates. There are clear downsides of playing solo. The biggest being the progression speed. Faction missions take longer, as well as your current season level, and are simply harder to complete alone, even though they feel satisfying as hell when you do. So because you're alone, you get less player and faction XP. You can't benefit from the faction quests of your teammates. There is a 20% boost to faction XP when playing alone, but that doesn't really make up for potentially 2 other teammates having faction quests that you're gaining XP from. There's no one watching your back in every situation. Many objectives will leave you vulnerable for several seconds while making noise, and that's all it takes. Looting as well, you can't see what's going on. You have to count on the sounds around you. Early stages of the game, solo has been more than viable, but as I progress from mid to endgame, will the risk-reward of loading in solo get to the point where it's no longer worth it? Some faction quests will require you to engage in combat with the UESC, so killing a certain number of bots, looting them, and these can be relatively easy work in trios, but can become a real challenge solo with more time for preparation, slowing you down as well. There's also starting to be a bit of a solo meta. The assassin shell and its invisibility is incredibly popular for solo runs, and it feels pretty cheap running into an invis runner, hiding in corners. But honestly, I can't hate too much. It's a reliable shell when you're trying to complete faction quests solo, especially the ones that have to be done in one run. That's how I unlocked my Sekiguchi faction. And I did think I would be an assassin or thief main. But I found myself using Vandal and Destroyer quite a bit, specifically Vandal. The double jump and slide are top tier for movement, and the cannon arm is great for throwing enemies off balance. What I hope Bungie can add in the future for solo. Bungie has released a few patches since launch. Some changes, like reduced health of most UESC enemies and reduced shield HP of UESC bosses, were implemented. They also increased the amount of starting ammo in Mida, Cyber Acme, and Arachne free sponsored kits. This should gently help the progress in all group types, including solos. For me, my number one priority ties in with my overall main concern about the endgame. Like a Destiny raid, Marathon's endgame will be the Cryo Archive. And to really get the full experience of what Marathon is offering, you're going to need a group. I think they've already confirmed that to access Cryo Archive, you will not be able to go in solo. So as a solo player, you will not be able to play the endgame. Although I am really enjoying solos, I can understand this decision. I played Destiny for years. They really are passionate about having group content that requires puzzle solving and mechanics that require more than one player. It's what they're best known for. And so I don't want that to hold them back just so I could play something alone. I understand I can queue up in a trio, and this is where my priority lies. They need to figure out how to implement duos playlists so that you can experience the entire game. This should be one of their priorities. It will be accessible to more people while still keeping systems built around teams together. I don't want to see the game being made quote unquote easier. The challenge is what makes it work. I don't think there should be any type of special adjustments to solo either. They already grant you a little bit more XP when completing faction quests. Maybe a bit of XP for your season level could also be offered, the 20% increase, but still offer more when playing as a squad. With all this being said, the positives and the negatives, I'm completely addicted to the solo experience. Even though it's more difficult, the tension of every run makes it memorable, and I hope they just figure out a solution to make the last part of the game, the Cryo Archive, more accessible for smaller groups, but for the bulk of the game, solo is viable, and it's so much fun. Thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. I appreciate you all. Take care.